that's interesting because this was written about 1,000 years before Jesus' crucifixion. And so it's very obvious that there are parallels between Psalms 22 and the crucifixion of Jesus. And the reason there are parallels is because through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, as David wrote this psalm, God used it through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit to reveal what was to come. So even though aspects of it may we can look at David and say, oh yeah, David had enemies that were after him and all of this, but there are aspects that are very clearly dealing with the Messiah. And so with the crucifixion story kind of in your mind, I want us now to read Psalms 22. And I want you to listen to some of the prophetic messages that were expressed in the Gospels dealing with Jesus' crucifixion. Now remember, Psalm 22 was written about 1,000 years before the crucifixion of Jesus. It was also written centuries before crucifixion was even introduced into the world. So with that in mind, listen to Psalm 22. It begins with a very familiar passage. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? We just heard Jesus expressing that. Jesus expressing, quoting from the psalm. So remember, one of the rules of biblical interpretation is you allow New Testament to confirm Old Testament prophecy. So when a passage is used in the New Testament from the Old Testament that is applicable to the New Testament, it confirms the Old Testament is prophetic. I'll draw you a map later to help you understand that. But look at, he says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Far from my deliverance are the words of my groaning. O my God, I cry by day, but thou dost not answer. And by night I have no rest. As this psalmist was expressing the distance of God, remember, a part of our theology of the crucifixion is that when Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? It was a true expression. It was truth. God, because of the sin of the world that was placed upon Jesus, there was a rejection of God the Father, the holiness of God that rejected Jesus, in that the sins of the world were upon him. So the psalmist says, where are you? I search and I cry for you, and you're not there. Verse 3, yet thou art holy, O thou who art enthroned upon the praises of Israel. In thee our fathers trusted. They trusted, and they did deliver, and thou didst deliver them. To thee they cried out and were delivered. In thee they were trusted and were not disappointed. But I am a worm and not a man, a reproach of men and despised by the people. All who see me sneer at me. They separate with their lips. They wag the head, saying, commit yourselves to the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him, because he delights in him. Yet thou art he who didst bring me forth from the womb. Thou didst make me trust when my mother's breast. So you see the rejection, the mocking that the psalmist expresses. There was that mocking and people shaking their head and wagging their head and dropping their head. Almost the exact same thing that we see in the crucifixion story of the people in general, but specifically of the Pharisees and the scribes. The wagging of their head. Now, some say that Jesus quoted this so people would think he was the fulfillment of prophecy. Do you get that? The fact that Jesus was able to look back at prophecy, and Jesus knew it, that to convince